All right, welcome back, everybody. We have another professional interview for you today. Today, we're going to welcome Jacob Southwick. He's with the Indian Nations Council of the Boy Scouts. Good afternoon, Jacob. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing good. I hope I introduced you correctly. Could you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about just like where you're at and kind of what you do, real quick?
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I work for the Boy Scouts of America, the local council, Indian Nations Council. It's based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and we cover about 18 counties in northeast Oklahoma. We manage about four different camp properties, including a pretty large summer camp program that serves well over 3 to 4,000 people every year. We
Awesome.
just launched a new high adventure program, um, which is very quickly growing. And my role in the organization, I am a program executive. So what that means is I work on all the administrative side of all the programs that we do, whether it's a weekend event or a longer term program like our high adventure base is kind of in my wheelhouse. So
And, and,
um,
and how long have you been there?
um, I've been in this position since September of last year, although I was also in the same position pre-COVID for about 6 months. So, when COVID hit, uh,
Sure.
we had a reduction in force, and I worked for a different nonprofit for a while, and then came back when the opportunity arose. So,
Very good.
all
So,
told, about a year.
yep. And it seems like you're doing good things there. I want to kind of travel back in what I call the Wayback Machine. We're going to travel back.
Sure.
Could you tell us, just in general, where you grew up and what you did as a kid for, fun and recreation?
Yeah, so I grew up in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and growing up, my parents were really big into camping. My dad more so than my mom, but we'd go camping a lot as a kid. My dad had me involved in scouting all the way from the time I was a tiger cub all the way up. So a long history of outdoor recreation, camping and hiking. A lot of time just playing in the yard,
Right.
playing with the neighbor kids. So,
And there's a variety of things to do around Stillwater, right? I mean, like,
yep,
I know there's lakes and there's creeks and there's, hunting and fishing and all that kind of stuff.
huge
Um,
Little League community.
what's that?
There's a huge Little League
Oh
community.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yep, yep,
So I know you also after high school you went to college there at Oklahoma State as well, right?
yes, yep.
So tell us, when you were deciding on Oklahoma State, what was your decision making process, and how did you? Because I know your program you graduated from. Tell us how you came about finding that program and deciding to go into that program.
Well, OSU was kind of the natural choice being a Stillwater hometown kid. Both my parents have their degrees from Oklahoma State, and it's just honestly being in Stillwater, it's kind of weird if you don't go to
Sure,
OSU.
sure.
But I started off, did a year at OSU, and then took time away from it when I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And once I got into kind of the general career field for a while, um, I knew I wanted to go back and do some sort of education related program, but not necessarily teaching because
Sure.
I like teaching and I like doing that kind of stuff, but not in the classroom.
Right.
Um, so started off at a smaller school, Rogers State, um, for a little while I was working as a professional for the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, and then jumped back to OSU and was fortunate to find the rec management program. And once I found it, it was just kind of immediately home. So
It's pretty interesting. So I don't know, because we haven't known each other an incredibly long time, but I worked for the Boys and Girls Club of Green Country a while back, um,
Yeah.
in Pryor and Shoto and some other
Okay.
areas. And we probably may know some similar folks, but it's interesting because I too, like I took after my first 2 years, I took a semester off and went to Roger State. Um,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah. So I took my classes in Pryor, Oklahoma,
Okay.
one semester there, and that like I appreciated my time there. It allowed me to reset. I lived with my father for a short time there, and allowed me to reset and refocus. And the people
Yeah.
at Roger State were incredible and helping guide me and all that.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of neat that you kind of took a similar path.
Yeah, that is funny.
Um, so you mentioned you're working for the Boys and Girls Club. I want to ask what got you involved with the Boys and Girls Club, and what kind of stuff did you do for them?
So I worked for the Boys and Girls Clubs of the Osage Nation, and I was a full-time youth development professional. So what I did was a lot of program planning during the day. Obviously, our our active program time would be after school. So we would spend just a general part of the day getting the facility ready, doing any program plans. A lot of what I like to do was kind of just like troubleshoot some of my programs. At some point, I started running a science, like an informal science program. So I do a lot of
Okay.
research on science experiments, and then I would spend the day like testing them out and figuring out how I was going to scale that from like, you know, a kitchen countertop to working with 30 kids in a room
Right.
and making it functional. But, that included driving the bus to pick up the kids to pretty much anything, really. We were very fortunate that our program was funded almost entirely from the Osage Nation, so we didn't have to do any fundraising.
Right.
Uh, so we got to really focus all of our energy on program planning and program delivery.
Okay. And then you said after that experience, you found your home, your academic home at Oklahoma State University.
Yep.
Um, so tell us a little bit about what you studied at Oklahoma State, and then what kind of like what kind of classes and things you've done through that during that time.
Sure. Well, the rec management program at OSU is pretty small in the grand scheme of things. I think all told, we had anywhere from 50 to 75 students in the program, which is really small, but it gives a lot of opportunity to tailor the program. So I was able to sit down with, my professors and say like, hey, this is what I want to do with my career. And
Right.
they would look at the academic sheet and say, like, one of the biggest things that probably really changed the course of my life, my career, I'm going to say definitely on that.
Okay.
She, Dr. Lindenmeyer, looked at my degree sheet and was like, hey, for what you want to do, you don't need chemistry and you don't need biology. They're not going to serve you any purpose. So let's find some science courses that you can take that will apply to your degree plan and that will be more relevant to what you want to do with your life.
Sure.
And from that, I found an awesome class, a geography class called Digital Tools for Environmental Exploration,
Okay.
which talked about GIS and GPS and LiDAR and like all of this amazing stuff, which was perfect for me at the time because it gave me a huge background in, at the time I was running a trekking program at our summer camp.
Yeah.
So it gave me an opportunity to understand different tools that I could use to make my program better. And it gave me a lot of ideas for how we could incorporate, geography tools into what we do in the recreation profession as a whole.
Right.
Um, and it's also, you know, why I say definitely was that was the class that I met my wife in. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
100% changed my life.
That'll happen, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
yeah. So beyond the geography and whatnot. So what kind of things beyond the classroom, I guess? What kind of stuff were you doing professionally? I mean, were you still working your job? Were you still getting involved elsewhere outside of the classroom?
yeah, I was involved with the Recreation Majors Club. So I was the president of that, I think, for 2 years, and was the treasurer for 1 year, which was a really good experience because when we did events or when we had to go ask for funding, I was the one that had to go ask the student council for funding. So that was really helpful for my professional career with the Boy Scouts. Um, and I was also working at our council summer camp at the time, so developing that. And then sometime while I was in school, I was also working for our university facilities management department in the events and like moods and special events. So a lot of my job with that was setting up events on campus,
Sure.
which was a very labor intensive job, but it really gave me a good perspective on all the hidden side of, you know, events, what goes into setting up an event, setting chairs, presentation, which, events are a big part of recreation.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. So as you're nearing the end of your educational path, and you're looking at options for what is Jacob going to do after graduation kind of thing. And sometimes I mention to my students like what do you want to do when you really grow up. Um,
right.
so what was some of the things that you were thinking or considering as you kind of knew that your time as far as an undergraduate student was coming to a close?
Well,
Does that make sense the way I asked that?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I knew I needed to identify internship opportunities, and ideally, you can find an internship opportunity that can then translate into a career or can tell you what things you don't want to be doing.
Right.
Um, and I did both of my internship opportunities, both my junior and my senior internship with the Scouts in different programs. Um, I did not want I did not want to be a professional Boy Scout when I was in school.
Right.
Um, that was not on my radar. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't know what the opportunities in scouting were.
Sure.
I knew I wanted to be involved in recreation. I wanted to be either at a camp or doing, like wilderness expeditions. Kind of had big dreams of like working for the Colorado Mountain Club or Knowles or, any of those cool big name places,
Right. Yeah.
REI. But it, it was pretty open as far as what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And I think when you're in a recreation field, you really have to be open. You have to be kind of looking at what your skills are, what skills you can transfer to different roles. Because you may be really well skilled at like snowshoeing and have zero experience with backpacking,
Yeah.
but be able to transfer that, and then somehow you end up running little leagues and everything still makes sense.
Right. But that kind of led you to where you're at now, right? Like like the flexibility and having the previous experience and all that to where you're at now.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I had a lot of background in scouting. I worked scout camps for a long time, but working for the Boys and Girls Club, working for just kind of a broad variety of nonprofits. They all kind of function similar ways. So whether you're working for the Boys and Girls Club or you're working for city parks and rec or wherever, like ultimately the same processes are going on. You're still providing a program, you're still marketing that program, you still have to buy equipment and supplies. It's just kind of, it gets into finding the passion that, finding what you're passionate about and being able to, sell that passion to do that job.
So tell me, so tell me a little bit more about what you do now. So like, in your current position, what kind of thing, what's the daily things you do, and what are some of the big picture stuff you do?
Well, right now we are gearing up for our summer camp. It's February, but kind of the biggest weight on my shoulders right now is trying to recruit staff for our summer program, because this is the time of year where we have to start getting all that employment paperwork done, and then we have to get them into training before they ever show up at the end of May. And then making sure that we're keeping up with all of our camp standards. So the Boy Scouts have their own camp accreditation system, pretty much mirrors the American Camp Association.
Okay.
But it's just more tailored to what scouting programs are and do, and all their intricacies. So we have to start working on all of that and making sure that our standards are up to date, so that when we have our accreditation team come out, we don't have any issues that we need to address or whatnot, and that we make sure we're putting on a safe program and we have everything covered, and that it's consistent with what any other high adventure base is running. And then we're kind of doing that with all of our programs. So we run a lot of weekend programs in the summer also for younger scouts.
Okay.
And those are mostly volunteer led. And that's kind of the really wonderful thing about the Boy Scouts as an organization is one of the past Chief Scout executives quoted it as saying, "We are volunteer driven, professionally guided."
Yeah.
So a lot of what I do is working with our volunteers, and they kind of do the program aspect of things. They'll do the program planning, they'll help recruit staff, they'll do a lot of the promotion, and a lot of that is kind of like grassroots promotion. And then on my end, I'll do like Facebook or social media promotion. We'll put stuff out through our council newsletter, and I'm ordering supplies, I'm ordering food, making sure that we have camp reservations, because if one of our units reserves one of our camps when we're trying to set an event, we're not going to kick that unit out,
Right.
just so we can hold our district cub camporee or whatever we're going to do. So it's a lot of that, just like behind the scenes stuff.
Okay. And then
Designing and ordering patches.
oh yeah, I didn't even think, yeah, absolutely, right.
Yeah.
That's so how many, so on a throughout, you said you had a lot of kids come through those camps during the summer, right? Are most of those
Yep.
Oklahoma kiddos?
Our summer camp program is one of the biggest in the nation. Pale Scout Reservation is one of the top 5 camps in the country, and we draw the majority of our attendance from out of council. So that means scouts that are in other parts of Oklahoma. We draw a lot of scouts from Arkansas, huge amounts of scouts from Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, as far as Houston, Missouri, Kansas, and we have 3 or 4 units that come in from Louisiana every year.
Okay,
So all the way from Baton Rouge.
that's fun.
Yeah. For our high adventure base, we have grown really big this year. We've got a crew coming in from Illinois, 2 crews coming in from Colorado, crews coming in from pretty much all over Texas, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. So,
Kind of a wide net you hit there.
yep.
Um, so not to get too specific, if somebody was, going to ask you, I think that's a good way to say it. If somebody was going to ask you, like, I'm interested in doing something similar for the Boy Scouts, right? What Jacob's doing sounds cool, or it sounds like an
Sure.
awesome opportunity. What kind of, for somebody, whether they're young or they're, when I say young, whether they're in high school or in college and they're kind of exploring options, what kind of things would you advise? What advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about Boy Scouts as far as a professional endeavor?
It is vastly different than, like, the professional side is a lot different than what the volunteer or the program side is. So if you grew up in scouting, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes because also ultimately the Boy Scouts is, even though it's a nonprofit, it's a corporation just like any other group. Um, so there's a lot of that just business side of it. But it's also a really great opportunity because there's a lot of opportunity for growth. There's a lot of opportunity to move around, and there's a lot of opportunity for training and networking. So for someone who wanted to get involved, and they don't have to be a scouting background, I've met a lot of professional scouters who had zero scouting experience before they got the job, knew
Okay.
nothing about scouting, and the the Boy Scouts do a lot of training to bring everybody up to speed. Um, so it's a really good program for really learning like what a nonprofit works, how it works, how committees work, networking, stuff like that. So if someone wants to get involved in as a professional scout, probably the easiest thing to do is volunteer at a local level, get involved with the local community and start networking and tell people what your goals are, what your ambitions are. You can look up where the local scout councils are, where their scout offices are, and you can call a professional and ask them, you know, what their day-to-day job is like, what their focus is, and just say like, hey, this is something I'm interested in doing
Right.
because they're they always want to recruit new people uh, into scouting, and so they will be more than willing to help.
So something else so you mentioned that you're gearing up, hiring for your summer programs, and that's an opportunity as well, right?
Yes,
So what kind
yes,
of what kind of stuff, what kind of opportunities are there, and how do people find out or get more information, I guess?
sure. So I'm hiring a couple roles right now. I am really desperate for a shooting sports director or two, and an aquatics director. I can use backpacking guides. I can use challenge course people, and I will train you. So that's the amazing thing. Again, Boy Scouts is all about training.
Right.
Um, so something to consider if you're looking for a summer camp job. If you are 21 or older, you are probably a prime candidate to be an area director, which means you get a minimum national camp school training, which is a 5-year certification, and it's nationally recognized. So when you get done with my season, or you don't want to come back next year, you can go work at any other camp
Yeah.
in the country with that role. And then because we're a high adventure base, we train wilderness first aid. If it's aquatics, we train as a lifeguard and first responder. Shooting sports directors, we train both with camp school, but also they have to be completely NRA trained before they go to camp school. So
Okay.
they get like NRA range master certification.
All right.
So a lot of good opportunities with that.
Right.
To find out how to get involved, you can visit our website, zbase.camp, or you can email me, jsouthwick@okscouts.org, or you
Okay.
can just,
And I'll,
Google
what I'll
adventure
do is I'll
base.
include those in the description when I send this video or I'll post this video.
Perfect. Yeah.
So,
Um,
so I guess, and I don't want to take it, I know we're going on a little over 30 minutes here. So I guess to kind of round it out, I've got two final questions for you.
sure.
The first is, um, you know, it's kind of in the same vein as an earlier question is, if somebody's thinking about going into a career field similar to yours, or thinking about, exploring parks and recreation as a degree option, or leisure, or whatever you want to call it. What is like a piece of like a nugget of advice that you would give to somebody considering those career avenues?
I think I've got kind of two and a half pieces of good advice.
All right.
Number one, keep your background check clean. Any youth serving organization or public facing organization is going to require a background check, and they are becoming more and more stringent on what they're looking for and what their expectations are. It doesn't just extend to the background check, it's also your personal public persona. So, I know there's a lot of things of like, keep your social media clean, but
Right.
it's serious because when I worked for the Boys and Girls Club, I sat in on someone getting fired because of what they posted on Twitter.
Right.
When you are out in public, you are the face of your organization, whether you like it or not.
Right.
And if you're not representing the values that your company espouses, you're not going to be with that organization for long.
Right. Okay.
Also, highly recommend taking some professional counseling. I know it's kind of weird to suggest, but even if the car is running right, you still want to get it checked out once in a while.
Right.
And one of the best things that has helped my personal and professional life is getting into counseling and learning good communication, learning what effective communication is, effective listening, because it helps so much in just being able to understand what other people are saying, but how to like knowing when's the best time to send an email to your boss to make sure that it gets read, or letting stuff kind of slide off when you need to.
Right. Prioritizing.
Yeah, just highly recommend it. And then once again, networking. Build those connections because they're absolutely critical to anything you do, especially if you are in a volunteer organization, a nonprofit. If you are working in a nonprofit, you are almost 100% guaranteed to have some responsibility with fundraising, and building connections goes a long way in being able to secure those funds or secure volunteers. Great ways to do that: sit on committees, get involved with organizations you care about, volunteer, join a Rotary Club, but just start now so that you can build those skills so that when you're in the career field, you already have a lot of connections that you can draw upon.
Right.
So that when your boss comes to you and says on a Thursday afternoon, hey, we're about to deliver a report to the board, we need $3,000. by tomorrow afternoon, you've got people that you can think about, like, who can I, who can I work through to try to secure some commitments,
Right.
or, if I'm
I think
looking for
those,
staff, same thing.
something that to kind of hit on each of those is saying, background check, sure, but I talk with students a lot about their social media and like, you know, uh, you know, and I say, how do I put it? Face your problems, don't Facebook your problems. And what I mean
Right,
by that is, use social media to your advantage to share your life with family and friends and all that. Um, but don't use it to your disadvantage. That it's, social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it may be, is not the place to do anything other than share positive things. And that's kind of
right.
the way I look at it. And you mentioned professional counseling, and I was thinking as you were doing that, I was like, and mentorship kind of goes along with that, and I think counseling and
Absolutely.
communication, all that's fantastic, and I agree with great advice, by the way. And I think also finding, and I've talked about this before, finding a good mentor to kind of, you got professional counselors, which are great, and then professional
Yep.
mentors can kind of get you down that path a little bit. And then, like you said, man, staying involved. I'm a big advocate of being service oriented, and I feel like you are the same way. And I think that that's so important in the long term. So great advice. I appreciate it. The
Sure.
the final thing, and I apologize. My phone rang twice. I don't know if you heard it while I was
No, I
talking.
didn't.
Oh, good, good. I'm glad because I was like exit, exit. Um, the last thing I want to know, and this is up to you how you answer it and all that, right? But usually one of the final questions I ask is, if Jacob could have any job in the world, um, as far as a job,
Sure.
I'm talking anything, what would it be? And maybe, tell me why real quick.
Oh man, that's a really difficult question to answer, because in any job you're gonna have stuff that you just don't want to do or you
Sure.
don't like. But in pretty much any job, and I've worked a lot of jobs in my life, um, there's there's things that I like doing and there's things that I don't like doing, and some days those flip flop. Um, but I think I think having a job with a lot of variety. That's kind of why I like this job a lot. Like, there's a lot going on to it, a lot going on with it. Um, but that's kind of what makes it fun,
Okay.
because, you know, today I'm putting together purchase orders for, you know, I gotta, I'm about to spend a lot of money on climbing gear for our ropes courses, but tomorrow afternoon I'm going to be out at one of our properties helping to set up a rappel tower.
Okay.
So,
Just having
going
that
from,
variety.
yeah, yep. And same thing with what programs we put on. There's programs that we do that are specifically targeted at elementary age children, and there's ones where, like our high adventure program, where it's 14 and older, and we're running ATVs and jet skis and, you know, doing some really awesome stuff. And then there's days where you're in a suit and you are in a room with, a state senator who's giving a speech about how he grew up in scouting but never achieved his eagle. And,
Right.
you're in a room with, collectively, like, some of the richest people in the community.
Right. Right.
So it's a really different thing. And I think that's a lot of what makes the job fun, is you almost get to kind of choose who you want to be that day.
Sure.
Um, so you're not, you're not always doing the same.
And I think that's a lot with, not just your position, but a lot of positions in, the Parks and Rec field is there's a variety, right?
Yeah,
And I think that's, not only is that common in our field, but it's common for people in our field to the people that fill those positions want more of those type of opportunities. Um, well, so I'll kind of close this out. Like I said, I know we're kind of running on long on time here. Jacob. But I sincerely appreciate you taking your time to let me interview you and kind of share your story. And I know that we'll stay in touch and all that. But if you ever need anything from me, reach out. I look forward to seeing your professional
Absolutely.
path, especially now I know a little bit more about
Yeah.
we have some similarities, right? And
Yeah.
so I look forward to that. But beyond that, have a great afternoon, and we'll talk real soon.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you so much.